Now, there have been reports that a security guard had been attacked with a knife. 7 minutes later, Greater Manchester Police say that shots were fired by the force. One man believed to be the offender has been shot. Now, paramedics are at the scene. 4 members of the public are believed to have been injured.
Greater Manchester Police believe the suspect also died, and they say this was a terrorist attack. It happened, it was targeting Jews on the most holy day on the Jewish calendar. Most Americans, meanwhile, seem to have little confidence in the way that Congress is being run.
Recent AP NORC polling finds that 4% of Americans have hardly any confidence in the way lawmakers on Capitol Hill are handling their jobs. About half of those surveyed had only some confidence, and only 6% said they had a high level of confidence in the people running Congress. And the findings could be worse now, since the poll was taken before the government shutdown.
That is Greg Clugston reporting. Investors seem to be shrugging off the shutdown and its possible impact on the economy. Right now, all the major indexes once again in positive territory. The Dow is up about 80 points at this hour. The S&P 500 up by 5 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy. In 2011, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind, to help honest folks out of their timeshares permanently. Today, I run Wesley with my 2 sons, a real family business, treating every client and every employee like we'd want our own family treated. That philosophy has helped us grow into the largest, most trusted timeshare cancellation company in the United States. Fortune magazine even recognized us as one of the best places to work. Why? Because we genuinely care. In fact, some of our former clients were so moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-226-5454. That's 800-226-5454. 800-226-5454.
Tesla showrooms were humming in the third quarter.
The electric vehicle maker's sales rose July through September. It may have been the result of consumers rushing to take advantage of a $7,500 credit before it expired on September 30th. The company reports sales were up 7% compared to the same period a year ago. The gain followed 2 quarters of sharp declines. Sales rose to just over 497,000 compared to 463,000 in the same period last year. Rich Thomason, Washington.
Still tallying up the impact on national parks amid the government shutdown. The National Park Service plans to furlough about 2/3 of its employees, while largely keeping parks open where they can. A Park Service plan also released this week says park roads, lookout trails, and open-air memorials will generally remain accessible. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller have converged on Memphis to meet with federal agents, forming a crime-fighting task force.
Attorney General Bondi says via social media that the Memphis Safe Task Force made more than 50 arrests over a 2-day period. The agents include personnel from immigration and drug enforcement. They've begun serving criminal arrest warrants while teaming with state agencies on traffic stops.
That is Andrew Stewart reporting. The White House is asking 9 major universities to commit to President Trump's political priorities in exchange for more favorable access to federal money. A letter to the universities on Wednesday asked them to sign an agreement committing them to adopt the White House's vision for America's campuses. It asked them to accept the government's priorities when it comes to admission in women's sports and free speech. More from townhall.com.
Your SRN program begins in 60 seconds. Your SRN program begins in 30 seconds. Your SRN program begins in 10 seconds. Your SRN program will begin in 5, 4.
He's not just the conservative voice at CNN. He's the last man standing athwart the leftist mob, delivering the fiery truth, surrounded, outnumbered, still undefeated. Fighting for free speech, Western civilization, and delivering common sense for the American people. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Scott Jennings.
And yet, not quite today. Hey, everybody, Mark Davis in for Scott. As fate will always dictate, if the Salem Media Group starts a show, I will at some point fill in for it. Welcome. For those of you who have no idea who I am, Scott's back tomorrow. I can't believe Scott actually is able to hook in and do like a daily hour radio show with the CNN stuff. And boy, we have triumphant moments from Scott on CNN last night. It seems like the guy whose name carries on the show should be featured in one of the first audio clips. And so we will get to that, Scott, with, hey, imagine this, a really triumphant gotcha moment on CNN last night. CNN continues to employ him. This is one of the enduring mysteries. It's great. It's a glorious, glorious thing. It's fantastic. And listen, as a conservative broadcaster of 40 plus years, I've spent my requisite amount of time savaging CNN for their various editorial biases. And yet day in and day out, they let Scott Jennings walk into a building, sit down and say stuff. I got to tell you, it gives me a certain warm fuzzy about those people. And so we'll hear Scott on CNN, and we'll hear a bunch of other things. We'll hear a couple of great guests today. Obviously, some shutdown talk. As we get into the shutdown talk, I can't not do this. We have to talk about the sombrero meme. When I first saw Hakeem Jeffries in a sombrero with a big, exaggerated comic mustache and the Mexican hat dance playing in the background, I thought, oh, Lord, the Earth is going to spin wildly out of its orbit. This may not have been smart. Oh, I loved it. It's funny. But I thought, is the world ready to absorb this? And darned if it turns out we are. We have rediscovered a sense of humor in at least part of America, and it is a glorious thing. And it's more than just some little trifle. I mean, is it sort of semi-juvenile? Of course it is. But is it funny? Absolutely. And does it make a glorious point that the Democrats are absolutely pitching to, pandering to, illegal immigrants in order to shower them with benefits? And there are a lot of ways to make a political point. One is with a scholarly position paper. One is with a really sharp and skillfully delivered segment on a cable news channel. One on a conservative radio show, the spoken word extemporaneously. There are all kinds of ways to score points and make your point. You know what another fantastic way to do it is? Satire, humor. And there hasn't been enough. Our politics have been too dry, too bitter, and too mean. And speaking of the meanness, speaking of just the bottom-feeding, sinister meanness of the left today, which I don't need to remind you of, they're freaking out in 12 languages that a meme stuck a sombrero and a mustache on Hakeem Jeffries. They call us Hitler. And we can't stick a sombrero on a politician? Are you high right now? Very weird. Anyway, to continue my half-started introduction, I'm Mark Davis, and I do the Happy Morning Show on 660 AM The Answer here in bustling Dallas, Fort Worth. Been a huge fan of Scott ever since he wedged his way back into our lives in various broadcast outlets, and I just can't tell you how proud we are here in Salem land to have Scott as a show, to have this as a commodity in our cornucopia of conservative broadcasting. It's the best, and so for Scott to be on the radio just makes my days complete. I finish up my little show that I do here in DFW, and I go driving around listening to all our buddies, listen to Mike Gallagher, and listen to I can't say enough about Charlie Kirk, obviously, our great friend Dennis Prager over the years. I filled in for him a lot, and Larry a lot. I fill in for everybody on radio and on Salem News Channel. So chances are we have run into each other before. If so, great. And if not, nice to meet you. I'm on the old X Twitter. I'll always call it Twitter. I don't know. What can I tell you? At Mark Davis, M-A-R-K Davis. And so shoot me a little something if you wish, and follow me if you want to. It's a lot of fun. And these are truly interesting times. So what makes them interesting this week is, of course, another shutdown. As a conservative, I care only so much about the shutdown. On the left, they care deeply about the shutdown because it is God to them. Government is church. It is the Lord to them. So it's a sacrament to them. What government is shutting down? Well, what will we do? So let's do this. Who better to lead with in the audio vault than let's go to the host of this show, Scott Jennings, last night on CNN, giving you a little bit of reality on what's really going on here.
Look, the facts here are pretty simple. The Republican Party has put on the floor and voted for a clean, continuing resolution, no changes. These are Biden budget numbers, by the way, and numbers that Democrats have voted for 13 times. Nothing up our sleeves here, Caitlin. They're trying to keep the government open long enough to negotiate things like the health care issue, which you were just debating, which I actually think maybe Republicans will wind up dealing on that. But they're not going to do it under duress, and they're not going to do it under threat of rolling back all the Medicaid reforms that were done this summer. So I think President Trump tried to bring the Democrats in. And at the end of the day, I think the American people know here they're looking at two parties. One's trying to do a bunch of funny business. One's trying to keep the doors open. And right now, I don't think the funny business side is winning in the eyes of the American people.
Why, thank you, Scott. Pleasure to be here for you, and pleasure to have you featured on your own show. Now, here's a moment. So Hakeem Jeffries, who has been festooned in a sombrero and a mustache for a reason, here's the reason. Here is Hakeem Jeffries on with Jake Tapper, and it's Tapper and Jeffries. Talk about peas in a pod. But listen to the little burst of truth that accidentally happens in this little excerpt.
What you support does bring back funding for emergency Medicaid to hospitals, some of which does pay for undocumented immigrants and people who don't have health insurance. And also there is this provision, and it's not about undocumented immigrants, it's about people with asylum seekers and people with temporary protected status, et cetera, but about their ability to get Medicaid. So they're non-citizens, they're not undocumented, they're not illegal. Why even include that in a bill knowing that they're going to seize right upon that and use that to message?
Ta-da! Thanks, Jake. Things I don't find myself often saying. Let me drop down a cut to J.D. Vance, because with this, with just a couple of minutes to go in this segment, the sombrero moment is upon us. And is it racist? Of course not. Racism is thinking less of somebody or mistreating them because of what race they are. I don't care that Hakeem Jeffries is black. And I certainly don't care about the Hispanic imagery that we're kind of having fun with. That's not to denigrate anybody's Latino-ness. It is to kind of point out the source material of where the Democrats' real loyalties lie, and that is illegal immigrants. And so they were asking J.D. Vance, this is cut 4, Sean, one of the great pleasures, 2 great pleasures, to get back and hang with my buddy Sean McConnell, who I've hung with so many times on many Prager shows and Elder shows, and to meet the wonderful Misty Callahan, who produces for Scott and who has assembled wonderful things today for me. What a magnificent, magnificent team. And speaking of folks on a great team, J.D. Vance as vice president. Here's J.D. Vance after being asked, Mr. Vice President, is it useful, is it constructive to be engaging in the sombrero meme?
The president's been posting some images of Leader Jeffries and Senator Schumer. I saw recently. You've said that you're interested in good faith negotiations with these leaders, but what message does that send? Is it helpful to post pictures of Leader Jeffries in a sombrero if you're trying to have good faith talks with him?
Oh, I think it's funny. The president's joking, and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun at some of the absurdities of the Democrats' positions, and even poking some fun at the absurdity of the Democrats themselves. I mean, I'll tell Hakeem Jeffries right now, I make this solemn promise to you that if you help us reopen the government, the sombrero memes will stop.
Deal? Do we have a deal? Absolutely magnificent. It is Christmas in October. The sombrero meme is funny. It is effective. It works. The right people are triggered. Have you seen Gavin Newsom and others jacking around with imagery of Mike Johnson and J.D. Vance? They love it. We love it. We got a sense of humor, and they don't. All right, let's do a little bit of a deep dive into what's going on here in this shutdown chapter. Tommy Aiello with the National Taxpayers Union is going to join us next. Mark Davis in for Scott Jennings. Stay here.
The president's been posting some images of Leader Jeffries and Senator Schumer.
I saw.
Recently, you've said that you're interested in good faith.
Hey, it's Scott Jennings, and I need to be blunt. Gold is up around 40% this year. That's not speculation, that's reality. And if a portion of your savings isn't diversified into gold, well, you're missing the boat. Here's the situation. Inflation, weak dollar, government debt, it's all still there, and it's why central banks are flocking to gold. They're the ones driving up the prices to record highs. But it's not too late to buy gold from Birch Gold Group. Get in the door now. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. You don't pay a dime out of pocket. Just text SCOTT to 989898. Get your info kit. No obligation, just information. Gold's been a safe haven for millennia. What else can say that? Text SCOTT to 989898. Claim your free info kit on gold. Help protect your future with Birch Gold. Text SCOTT to 989898. Do it today. Well, Dinesh D'Souza has done it again. His new eye-opening movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, illuminates a 3,000-year-old mystery about Israel, the dark resurrection, and the end of days. The nation of Israel is a resurrected nation. But what if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, an enemy of Israel? After the horrific attack on October the 7th, The Dragon's Prophecy offers new understanding on Israel, radical Islam, anti-Semitism, and biblical prophecy. Could it be that the fate of the world, of all humanity itself, is tied to what we're seeing in the Middle East today? Based on the #1 international bestseller by Jonathan Cahn, The Dragon's Prophecy reveals how another realm could be transforming our world as we speak. Don't miss Dinesh D'Souza's new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, in theaters 2 nights only. See it on October 6th and October 8th. Streaming and DVDs available October 9th. All tickets and pre-orders at thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. Thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. Hey, it's Scott Jennings. You know, in our household, we have 3 great dogs. Elvis J. Bulldogington, Fiona the Pug, and Baxter the Super Terrier. So we're going to the vet, just like you. And sometimes you go to the vet, you get another diagnosis, and you get another expensive treatment that may not even work. You're back in the treatment room. Your dog is shaking with anxiety, and you're shaking. How much is this going to cost me, you wonder? Is it even going to work? Most canine health problems, though, have one common root cause: a weakened immune system. That's why naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black created Rough Greens. It breaks the vet visit cycle with the live nutrients that your dog needs to thrive from the inside out. That's why it's America's #1 dog supplement. We give it to our dogs, Elvis, Fiona, and Baxter. They love it. Their health is terrific. We could not be happier. Thousands of pet parents are getting off the vet visit merry-go-round, and they're seeing the difference. Try it yourself with a free Jumpstart trial bag. You just cover the shipping, because the best doctor visit is the one you never have to make. Go to roughgreens.com, ruffgreens.com. Use promo code SCOTT. Break the vet visit cycle today. Hey, it's Scott Jennings. You know, in our household, we have 3 great dogs. Elvis J. Bulldogington, Fiona the Pug, and Baxter the Super Terrier. So we're going to the vet, just like you. And sometimes you go to the vet, you get another diagnosis, and you get another expensive treatment that may not even work. You're back in the treatment room. Your dog is shaking with anxiety, and you're shaking. How much is this going to cost me, you wonder? Is it even going to work? Most canine health problems, though, have one common root cause: a weakened immune system. That's why naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black created Rough Greens. It breaks the vet visit cycle with the live nutrients that your dog needs to thrive from the inside out. That's why it's America's #1 dog supplement. We give it to our dogs, Elvis, Fiona, and Baxter. They love it. Their health is terrific. We could not be happier. Thousands of pet parents are getting off the vet visit merry-go-round, and they're seeing the difference. Try it yourself with a free Jumpstart trial bag. You just cover the shipping, because the best doctor visit is the one you never have to make. Go to roughgreens.com, ruffgreens.com. Use promo code SCOTT. Break the vet visit cycle today.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
Todd Nettleton, who is the voice of the Martyrs radio host, he's traveled to all these restricted nations for over 20 years and met these courageous Christians, and he's written a book, When Faith is Forbidden, 40 Days on the Front Lines with Persecuted Christians. We want you to check it out. You can request a free copy by calling 844-463-4059, or you can visit vom.org/unashamed. Check it out. You will be inspired by this book.
Quelling leftist arguments with truth and common sense. They hate that. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Hey, everybody, welcome. Thursday edition of the Scott Jennings Show. Mark Davis filling in from Texas. Great to have you here. And great to have this gentleman here. Yeah, there I was riffing about the shutdown and various things. Well, let's go to the experts. Let's go to the folks who are covering this for a living and doing things like this on their business cards. It is Tommy Aiello, Senior Director of Government Affairs at the National Taxpayers Union. Tommy, Mark Davis, welcome to the Scott Jennings Show. How you doing, sir?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. So I don't mean tribally or yay Republicans, yay conservatives, even though that's in my heart. When I say, are we winning the shutdown? I don't just mean the Republican Party. I mean those of us who believe in fiscal sanity. Are there some really good points being made, either through sombrero memes or anything else, that the Democrats are really being unreasonable in this chapter?
Yeah, you know, the government shutdown is really unfortunate. And I'll just say no one wins in a government shutdown, right? We're paying government bureaucrats to sit at home and not work. Our military, they're working but not getting paid. And we can't even approve, you know, important energy projects to ensure the president's energy dominance agenda. But, you know, it doesn't have to be this way. Democrats, they should come to the table and vote for a clean CR just so they can continue to negotiate a long-term funding deal. It's really not that hard, but unfortunately, Democrats want to play politics and keep the country hostage. It's very unfortunate.
And the irony is that the clean CR, for those that they've heard this 47 times, the clean CR is a continuing resolution. Clean means it's unadorned with all kinds of other ancillary things, other spending, other line items. It is the picture of simplicity and also the accurate picture of exactly what the Democrats voted for when Biden was president.
Yeah, and you know what really bothers, just to be honest with you, what really bothers me so much about the Democratic talking points is we hear from the other side, oh, Republicans control the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. They can do what they want. But everyone who's taken a basic civics class knows you need 60 votes in order to proceed to anything in the United States Senate. So they're not being honest with the American people, right? We need Democrats to come to the table and just, you know, take an up or down vote to keep the government open. It's really not that hard. But you need to see what they're actually fighting for and how unreasonable it is. Yes, they say, you know, we're not fighting for illegal immigrants to get Medicaid. Well, they are, right? The One Big Beautiful Bill prohibits that. The Congressional Budget Office says it'll save billions of dollars because right now non-citizens are taking advantage of our health care system. So they're just not being honest, and it's really hard to negotiate with a party that isn't being honest with the American people about the basic facts.
Let's return to that civics point, because you're the National Taxpayers Union guy, the fiscal guy, the tax policy guy. But for all of us who care about policy, and I care about policies across the wide landscape, that 60-vote margin, I know why it exists, cloture and supermajorities and things. I know why they exist. I'm weary of it. I'm tired of it. I'm ready for it to be 51 votes for everything. I know we're scared of that because in some future Democrat administration will be less able to stop their treachery. But for right now, I'd give a limb to have a 51 vote margin, and I'm confident about our prospects for the future. Would you like to get rid of the 60 vote hurdle?
You know, I don't think the Republican Party in the Senate is there to eliminate it. I mean, we remember in 2020, after Joe Biden was sworn in as president, that they wanted to get rid of the 60-vote threshold so they can implement their Green New Deal and their socialist takeover of America. So it is an important buttress against those really bad ideas. But then again, we're in these situations right now where it is extremely frustrating that we can't implement parts of the president's agenda or even do some of the most basic things like funding our government because we need Democrats to be honest players, and unfortunately they're not, right? They're keeping the government hostage. They're keeping it closed. And what really gets me is, you know, they're going to be hosting a fundraiser next week in Napa Valley, California for their big donors, right, with the government closed. It reminds me of when Gavin Newsom closed the schools, closed the churches, closed
French
the
Laundry,
and then went to the French Laundry.
That's
so we're having a redux of 2020, unfortunately, and it's very tone deaf for the American people.
It is. 60 seconds is what we have. So what's your crystal ball? How long will it take for Democrats to cry uncle if they do?
You know, I think this could go on for a little bit. And, you know, American people, they won't feel the full effects of a shutdown for another couple of weeks or so. That's what the data has shown in the past. So I think we are in a 2-week sweet spot to make a deal just to reopen the government. But we need to be mindful. Republicans shouldn't cave on these Obamacare subsidies for wealthy people that Democrats desperately want. They shouldn't cave on overturning their one big beautiful bill pro-taxpayer changes to Medicaid. We just need to open the government and then negotiate a long-term deal to fund the government potentially at lower levels.
Excellent. Tony Allo, so great to have you, Tommy. Tommy Allo, National Taxpayers Union. You guys are heroes to me. Great to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much. Mark Davis in for Scott Jennings. Coming up next, we're going to talk to one of our heroic folks at Accuracy in Media. Talk about, we think we're getting rid of DEI in schools. Are we? Are we really? We'll examine it next. Mark Davis in for Scott.
The fastest growing show on syndicated radio. Welcome aboard. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Hey, it's Scott Jennings. Our society works because of the freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. Everyday Americans should be able to speak openly about family and traditional values without retribution. That's a principle that Pure Talk proudly supports. Now, they sponsor my show, which allows me to stand strong behind the microphone every day and share common sense with the American people. If you want to support brands that defend America and defend freedom, I encourage you to switch your wireless service to Pure Talk. You get the same great 5G coverage on an extremely reliable and secure network, and the plans, well, they're just $25 a month. You'll save a ton of money. Pure Talk believes in creating American jobs and supporting small businesses. If you're a small business owner, you can save while enjoying white glove service. Stand with companies who share your values. Dial pound 250 and say, Scott Jennings, switch to my wireless company, Pure Talk. Do it now and save an additional 50% off your first month. Dial pound 250 and say, Scott Jennings, to switch to Pure Talk. Do it today.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owe the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
The Federal Reserve just cut interest rates, and that could be big news for the price of physical gold and silver. That's why Advantage Gold invites you to call 800-741-GOLD. Call now and you'll get your free gold and silver information kit. And you could qualify for up to $10,000 in free gold and silver with your IRA or 401k rollover. Advantage Gold has been ranked the #1 gold company in America for the last 10 years. And with the U.S. dollar facing serious devaluation, now is the time to act. We've partnered with former IMF chief economist Kenneth Rogoff. And when you call 800-741-GOLD, you'll also receive his best-selling book, Our Dollar, Your Problem, absolutely free. Gold and silver are real, tangible assets that have protected wealth for centuries. Advantage Gold helps you move your IRA or 401k into physical precious metals, tax-free and penalty-free. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-4653 now. That's 800-741-GOLD.
Let's see, if something costs less, a lot less, but people are actually happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MetaShare. Maybe you've heard joining MetaShare can save you or your family up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true. People are just happier with it. They love being part of something that reflects and promotes their values and what they believe in. MetaShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years now, and members have shared more than $7 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network, so yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care, whether you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan that you're happy with. Here you go. You can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. It's 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
You ever wonder why Verizon charges twice as much as Pure Talk for the same basic service? Think it might have something to do with the fact that Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion? That's billion with a B. Yeah, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. That's why they can offer unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Save an additional 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say the words micro. That's pound 250, micro.
Is the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians the revival of an ancient conflict recorded in the Bible?
The nation of Israel is a resurrected nation. So what if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, an enemy people of Israel?
Dinesh D'Souza's new film, The Dragon's Prophecy, offers new understanding of October 7th, Israel, radical Islam, anti-Semitism, and biblical prophecy. Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be tied to this place?
We came back to a land that was largely barren and empty, and we brought it back to life, and we're going to keep it.
The dragon will not prevail.
Based on Jonathan Cahn's international bestseller, Dinesh D'Souza's new film, The Dragon's Prophecy, is in theaters October 6th and 8th. Streaming and DVDs available October 9th. See the trailer and order your streaming or DVD at thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. Thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. You want to drive a leftist crazy? Tell the truth and keep smiling. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Hey, put me in, Coach. I'm ready to play. Mark Davis filling in for Scott. Great to be here. Scott returns tomorrow. And so sitting here in my DFW enclave here at 660 AM The Answer, where I do the morning show, we've been talking about a lot of things. In fact, this very morning, we talked about, obviously, the shutdown, and we talked about media coverage of the shutdown, and we've talked about education a lot. So the confluence of all those things makes it a wonderful opportunity to welcome the president of Accuracy in Media, Adam Gullett. Adam, welcome, sir. Nice to have you on the Scott Jennings Show. Mark Davis, good to talk to you again. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
It is my absolute pleasure. Now, we're going to do some education stuff because you guys have done some amazing undercover education, tear the lid off the supposed extinction of DEI. I want to get to that. But as the Accuracy in Media leader and president, have you been paying attention over these last 48 or 72 hours about media coverage of this shutdown? And have they done what they usually do, viewed a government shutdown kind of like an asteroid hurtling toward the Earth?
But you've got to remember, we live in a fragmented media landscape. There's no news outlet, for the most part, that is still trying to go after a broad base of viewers, a broad base of listeners. So instead, these outlets largely tell their audiences what they want to hear. So if you tune into MSNBC, if you read the New York Times, they know. They're not trying to get moderates. They're not trying to get conservatives or libertarians. They're only going after far-left radicals. So as a result, they tell those people, oh, the world's going to come to an end without the government. The sun may not shine. The birds may not chirp and sing. The world is definitely reaching apocalypse tomorrow, because that's what's going to get the clicks from their audience. As I said, they tell them things that they want to hear, even if they know it not to be true.
Having mentioned that, kind of makes me want to take a sidestep. I know accuracy in media has largely been about media news, media coverage, but isn't that kind of a close cousin to what we've seen in the weird cesspool of late night with the Colberts and the Kimmels and that strange chapter of Jimmy's oh-so-brief banishment? And now these guys all team together to show us just how strong they are against Trump by seeming to just whimper together in an exercise in pearl clutching. What the phenomenon that you describe in sort of news media coverage by reporters also extends into late night, doesn't it?
Well, in reality, those guys should be on MSNBC. They should be on a far-left station. They're not focused on comedy anymore. And, hey, you know, more power to them. If you want to push crazy lefty nonsense, that's fine. But what's so disappointing to me is that they don't chase laughs anymore. They chase applause. Applause is performative, whereas laughter, you can't help it. It's involuntary. Applause comes from the sign for the audience in the studio saying, time to applaud. Laughter is something you can't help. It just erupts within you. And there are incredibly hysterical shows out there like South Park that do make you laugh when they make fun of the Trump, when they make fun of right-wingers, left-wingers, and libertarians. But these shows are really just the same kind of echo chamber nonsense, pretending to be a comedy show. And that's why their numbers are so much lower than they used to be.
I'm glad I asked. Now let's go to the amazing work you guys have done. Some hidden camera investigators in like 300 school districts across the country. I am, as an American, I am pleased to see a lot of people talking the talk and saying the right things about getting rid of DEI. Actually doing it is quite another exercise. How much pushback are the merchants of DEI, the high priests and priestesses of DEI, how much resistance are they showing?
Well, I'll tell you, most of these DEI and critical race theory bans are worse than worthless because they accomplish nothing but provide a false sense of security. In K through 12, where they've banned critical race theory and increasingly DEI, I've been undercover personally in over 200 school districts. And what I find consistently is that the radicals who run higher education in red states have no cares about the law at all. This is a religion to them. They are on an evangelical mission to put these essentially Marxist ideas into the minds of children as early as kindergarten, to teach them that America is an oppressor state, that we're systemically racist, that capitalism is inherently racist. This garbage is pushed in every facet of education, K through 12, even in red states. And we don't investigate the blue or purple ones. We only go to the conservative and red states. And in higher education, of course, it's even worse. In the past 20 years, they've hired roughly 20 administrators for one faculty member. We used to bemoan the left-wing faculty. They are the least of our problems now because every university has a large, bloated staff of administrators who are largely activists, largely doing activism work in DEI and LGBTQ and all these wacky things that have nothing to do with education.
So, all right, having given voice to the problem, let's talk about solutions. We are in an age where parents are showing up pretty reliably in schools to try to instill some gender sanity, things like this. Is this the kind of thing that fits that template? Can enough parents show up at enough school boards to sort of unravel this web?
Well, I got bad news for you. Not in their wildest dreams. Because these are full-time radicals who know every trick in the book. If you ban the New York Times 1619 Project, for example, which teaches that the American Revolution was fought to preserve slavery, which is, of course, ridiculous, they simply use a classroom curriculum service called Newsela, which shares the exact same content It says Newsella on the masthead, not New York Times, so you're none the wiser. If you ban many of these things, they'll use social and emotional learning. They just change the titles into the exact same stuff. The loss means nothing to them, and it's impossible to stay on top of it. Your only solution is to enact universal school choice where the money follows the child. And we now live in a country where more than 50% of American students live in states with universal school choice. Because having been in this many school districts, all I could say is, get your children the heck out of traditional education. You know, we've done investigations as well into boys and girls sports. We've been releasing those from a variety of red states. And again, these administrators brag to us about how they will happily break the law and get biological boys into girls sports and girls locker rooms. These schools cannot be redeemed.
Adam Gillette is here from Accuracy in Media. In our remaining couple of minutes, Adam, let's return. And first of all, thanks for the incredibly heroic stuff you're doing to uncover sort of the education mirage of things getting better. They are getting somewhat better. In fact, one last thing before I go back to sort of a broad media subject. What if somebody feels like, you know, my kid, I'm in a maybe a small to medium-sized town. I'm in a pretty good school district. They seem responsive. This stuff doesn't seem to be happening. We're good leaving those kids in those public schools and letting that marketplace be rewarded?
You know, you want to believe that these principals and administrators and teachers have your child's best interest at heart. But the problem is what they view as in the best interest of your child is probably dramatically different from what you view as in the best interest of your child. And you meet with them and they seem all nice, and then I meet with them. But I do it with hidden cameras. And they lie, and they brag to me about how they lie to you. I was in a 3-1 Trump over Biden County in rural Tennessee, where an administrator bragged to me about how progressive their curriculum was from an equity point of view. If that's what's happening in rural Tennessee, 3-1 Trump over Biden, what do you think's happening in the purple districts? What do you think's happening in the blue districts? These are not the teachers, the entry-level secretaries. We talk to the superintendents. We talk to the athletic directors, the people running these institutions. They have been captured by the left. They have equity officers in darn near every district, and they are a step ahead of you in every way.
Here's a headline, fresh as today. Right here in my neck of the woods, down the road in Austin, the University of Texas is one of, I think, just shy of a dozen colleges and universities that have been contacted by the Trump administration, where they essentially say, hey, guys, define gender accurately, put a cap on your number of foreign students, and a couple of other caveats, and we will probably smile on you more with more federal funding. What do you think of that overture, and how many takers do you think they'll get?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, we've sent our hidden camera investigators to universities throughout Texas where they brag to us about pushing DEI in defiance of state law because the law has no teeth to it, and the law means nothing to these radicals. Of all of the states that have banned DEI, just as one example, in higher education, only Kansas did a good job of it because theirs is the only ban that has a reporting mechanism and actually has penalties to it. In the rest of these instances, either the politicians passed a law merely to placate their voters and knew that it wasn't going to accomplish anything, or the politicians just don't know how the heck to write a law because, as we learned, it accomplished nothing. Credit to Ken Paxton in Texas, who, after we investigate some of these places, he then goes and sues the school districts and sues these people and investigates the universities. But beyond that, these laws are worthless to the radicals who don't give a darn about them.
Next headline is fresh as today. The Department of Justice has launched an investigation into UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, over anti-Semitism complaints. I think we're getting some more raised eyebrows. Some people don't seem to be as willing to just let this go. The raging Jew hatred that's being planted and fomented across college campuses. Are you seeing a glint of optimism there?
You know, it's really challenging because, again, even if the presidents of these universities and our organization has played a big part in getting many of them fired, if the unemployment rate goes up next quarter, we're partially responsible, and I apologize. We've helped get presidents fired at VMI, Columbia, Harvard, Northwestern, across the country. But the thing is, these presidents at these universities are darned if they do and darned if they don't. Because if they don't comply with the Trump administration, he'll go after them. If they do, well, all of those administrators I told you about who are radical activists, taxpayer-funded activists, well, they're not going to be happy. nor will all the faculty, nor will most of the students. So they can either make a deal with the Trump administration and alienate nearly everybody on their campus, or they can go after the feds and fight the feds. There's no great solution other than to stop funding them with our tax dollars. There's no reason we should be funding an entire class of taxpayer-funded activists at universities across the country. Get our money out of these radical anti-Semitic schools.
Adam Gillette, Accuracy in Media. Thanks for the stuff you do, the work you do every day. Much appreciated. Thanks so much, Adam. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me.
That is a sharp young man. The Accuracy in Media. I'm old enough. I've been around the tree enough to remember when a guy named Reed Irvine started Accuracy in Media, and he probably, as much as anybody, opened people's eyes to the degree to which the media culture. And this goes back to a time when it's sort of the beginnings, the infancy of cable, but mostly it was the ivory towers of ABC, CBS, NBC, your big metropolitan dailies, the New York Times, Washington Post, et cetera, et cetera. And what really else was there? And the answer is not much. And Reed Irvine, in the early days of Accuracy in Media, did just heroic work in showing the country that this was a liberal bias that was being, shot through our veins every single day. And maybe there's something that needs to be done about that. And now a couple of generations later, the marketplace, it seems, is doing a few things about that. Well, here's what we're going to do. I'm Mark Davis in for Scott. When we come back, our final segment, we're going to hear from a little Clarence Thomas. That's always time well spent. And talk about which Supreme Court rulings do and which do not deserve to be left alone. Stick around. Mark Davis in for Scott Jennings. Be right back.
News, comment, and the stories and facts the mainstream media refuses to discuss. It's the Scott Jennings Show.
Hey, it's Scott Jennings. You have probably heard the Relief Factor commercials where someone says to his spouse regarding his pain, "You don't understand, it's gone." Well, Sharon told us that's exactly how she feels. Sharon says, and I quote, "Relief Factor has helped me so much. I plan on taking it for the rest of my life. I am a walking testimonial." That's what Relief Factor customer Sharon has to say. Well, you know what? My experience matches Sharon's. We have been taking Relief Factor in the Jennings household. We're very happy with it. I got this thing with my right knee, and I'm just going to tell you, you take some Relief Factor, and it does target the inflammation areas that give you that pain, maybe some swelling. Relief Factor does help. If pain has been holding you back, it's time that you found out why so many people, just like Sharon and myself, make Relief Factor part of their daily routine. The 3-week quick start is for you. Visit ReliefFactor.com and call 1-800-4RELIEF.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy. In 2011, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind, to help honest folks out of their timeshares permanently. Today, I run Wesley with my 2 sons, a real family business, treating every client and every employee like we'd want our own family treated. That philosophy has helped us grow into the largest, most trusted timeshare cancellation company in the United States. Fortune magazine even recognized us as one of the best places to work. Why? Because we genuinely care. In fact, some of our former clients were so moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-822-1716. 800-822-1716. 800-822-1716.
Hi, everyone. Super Bowl champ Vernon Davis here from Legal Help Center. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up, because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. You can find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. The call is free, the consultation is free, and you can speak with a live agent right now. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now to find out if you have a case and how much you could potentially get.
Thanks, Vernon. You heard it, folks. If you've been injured, call and find out how much you qualify for. Call 800-504-8790. That's 800-504-8790. 800-504-8790. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
The Federal Reserve just cut interest rates, and that could be big news for the price of physical gold and silver. That's why Advantage Gold invites you to call 800-741-GOLD. Call now and you'll get your free gold and silver information kit, and you could qualify for up to $10,000 in free gold and silver with your IRA or 401k rollover. Advantage Gold has been ranked the #1 gold company in America for the last 10 years, and with the U.S. dollar facing serious devaluation, now is the time to act. We've partnered with former IMF chief economist Kenneth Rogoff, and when you call 800-741-GOLD, you'll also receive his best-selling book, Our Dollar, Your Problem, absolutely free. Gold and silver are real, tangible assets that have protected wealth for centuries. Advantage Gold helps you move your IRA or 401k into physical precious metals, tax-free and penalty-free. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-4653 now. That's 800-741-GOLD.
The sage from South Central has returned. Larry Elder is back and better than ever on the Larry Elder podcast.
Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina. I mean, he ran the table. Don't gloat, Larry. People are sick of being told that things are better now than they were 3.5 years ago. Maybe if Beyonce had sung a song or two, the outcome would have been somewhat different. These are just my theories. Just some theories I have.
Subscribe to the Larry Elder podcast today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com. One man standing tall against the leftist mob. Here's Scott Jennings.
You know what they say, time flies when you're saving the country. Mark Davis in for Scott. Thanks so much. We're going to take our final few minutes here in this last segment. First of all, thanking some people, Sean and Suzette in L.A., Mr. Callahan in Chicago, and Scott, wherever he may be, for letting me keep the chair warm for this hour today. Scott's back tomorrow, and I'm back anytime they need me. Mark Davis at 6:60 a.m. The Answer, where I'm the happy morning host here in DFW. Follow me on the old X Twitter, at Mark Davis, M-A-R-K Davis. So a couple of things. Let's talk some Supreme Court. And anytime I think Supreme Court, obviously I'm enormously grateful when I think about the thank God he won, thank God he won, thank God he won mantra that I'm so fond of repeating for Trump term number 1 and especially now Trump term number 2. It is the constitutionalist Supreme Court justices he has brought us. Now, they have not been perfect, Amy Coney Barrett. But when you take a look at, and listen, even Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, just when you consider these folks versus the Hillary appointees that would be strangling the lifeblood right out of the Constitution even as we speak. Just, again, thank God he won, thank God he won, thank God he won. And thank God every day for Clarence Thomas. We live in a time, I lived long enough to see Roe v. Wade overturned. And I was thrilled that day, and I'm thrilled every day that unconstitutional cancer has been chemoed out of our rule of law. I wanted the overturn of Roe versus Wade, not just because I'm pro-life or because I'm conservative or whatever, I am, but just because it's unconstitutional. That is what justices should look at. I don't want the Supreme Court to approve of or disapprove of anything because of their personal politics. This is what the left will never understand. The liberal justices, the Sotomayors, the Kagans, the Ketanji Brown Jacksons, will always rule on things based on their worldview and the way they want things to be. The conservative justices, which I prefer to call constitutionalist justices, because it's not their personal conservatism they should bring to bear, but their constitutional clarity, they got rid of Roe v. Wade, not because they were pro-life or not to kowtow to conservatives, but because there was never any right to abortion in the Constitution. It was a damnable fiction. So here's Clarence Thomas on the overall notion of which rulings deserve to be left alone and which deserve to be revered and which need to be overturned. And this raised a couple of eyebrows. Justice Thomas, sir.
I don't think that I have the gospel, and I don't think that any of these cases that have been decided are the gospel. And I do give respect to precedent, but the precedent should be respectful of our legal tradition and our country and our laws and be based on something, not just something that somebody dreamt up and others went along with. You've got, let's just take, for example, I think, do you think that Plessy was right? That was a precedent for almost 7 decades?
Right.
Or do you think you should have just followed it because it was already decided? Or do you think it somehow violates, it's so wrong that it needs to go?
Clarence Thomas is 77, and, it's funny, Joe Biden's problem was never the number of his age, but the absence of his marbles. Chuck Grassley is still there, and he's like 112 and seems to be sharp as a tack for the most part. It's not about the number. I hope for Justice Thomas that he's able to continue this career and this legacy of constitutional clarity. The Plessy that he mentioned was Plessy versus Ferguson. You may remember this from early classes if you ever had any early law or just any history classes. Plessy versus Ferguson was 1896. And you know what that gave us? Separate but equal. Yeah, remember what fun that was? The U.S. Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of racial segregation. And this is the way until Brown v. Board of Education in 1954. It gave us separate but equal. There was the 14th Amendment describing equal treatment under law. And in 1896, the Supreme Court said, we don't have to have the black kids and the white kids together. We can go ahead and separate those as long as the facilities resemble each other. The kids may not resemble each other, but if the school buildings do, we're going to be good here. Absolutely incredible. It needed to be overturned, as did Roe v. Wade. Some rulings deserve to be overturned, some don't. That is Justice Thomas's wisdom. Well, I hope I've given you a couple of nuggets. Scott's back with his wisdom tomorrow. Again, thank you, Sean and Suzette and Misty, and thanks to all of you. Follow me, Mark Davis, there at Mark Davis on Twitter, M-A-R-K Davis. Scott Jennings is everywhere, including here on the radio, for which we are grateful. Have a great day. Be back with you soon, I'm sure. Scott's back tomorrow. Talk to you soon.
Common sense for the American people. This is the Scott Jennings Show.